Welcome to my nightmare. You might notice a few changes in Darren's appearance today. The most glaring obvious is either the glasses or this big contraption wrapped around my arm. So this video is going out to Brandon Jensen, who asked about clay bars, surface prep pads. So I had recently shot a video demonstrating on a brand new Maserati. I had not had time to edit that video. A lot of things have taken place in the past couple weeks. So in trying to respond to your questions, I already knew I had this video shot. It is waiting to be edited, but I wanted to do this little introduction for a couple purposes. One is to introduce you to my new reality. Welcome to my nightmare. I blew out my elbow. Specifically, what I did is I tore the bicep tendon away from the bone. It's called a distal bicep tear. I went into surgery just 2 days ago. Today is, I believe, July 2nd. I will be in this hard cast for 2 weeks. The point I want to make with that is that if I thought I was limited before in answering all your questions, I am grossly limited now because I'm literally typing with my left hand. And by the way, I am right-handed, so it's even that much more difficult. So now I have to hold a pencil in this hand and try to type buttons and then type with this. So it is extremely difficult. So hold back on the questions and comments. Just know that it's going to be a case by case as to who I can comment and respond to. I am still going to be editing videos. I still have a few videos in my computer that have not been edited, but fortunately they have already been shot. So I wanted to talk about clay bars. I have a very extensive video on clay bars, but I kind of wanted to update that and answer Brandon's question specifically, because he asked that in the video, the first one, I said that this pad, which is a nanoskin pad, and it's got a Velcro back to it, attaches to a DA polisher. Really, it can attach to any type of polisher so long that it has a Velcro backing plate to it. But typically it's made for a DA. Now, the point that I made in that first video is that this will abrade the crap out of your paint. Now, I need to pull back and apply further context to that. Does that mean I would not recommend this? No, it doesn't. It just means you have to understand the limitations of every one of these types of surface prep bars. Now, if you're a total new beginner, this preparing the surface of your car paint is what is required in between washing it, getting the chunks off of it, and before you wax it, polish it, or do anything else. This removes what's called surface contaminants. There's pollution in the air, it sticks to the paint. Traditional washing, waxing, and polishing will not remove these contaminants. One of the common names for these contaminants is called industrial fallout. On light colored paint, you can see it as little tiny rust specks. Now there is chemicals, and by chemicals I mean liquid chemicals like Iron X, that can remove these contaminants through a chemical process. That is another way. That is not the purpose of this video. Ideally, if you wanted to go level 10, you would use a product like Iron X or one of the other chemicals to remove, which chemically reacts to those particles, which are ferrous, which means that's like a glorified name for some type of metal. It reacts chemically to it and it dissolves those. I would still choose to use a surface prep bar after using the Iron X. But in the real world of detailing and making a profit at the professional level, typically you're just going to pick one or the other. Now, as a mobile detailer, we are limited because we're working in the outdoor elements. Now, whether you have a canopy or not is also a certain limitation. So if you have a canopy, you have shade. So this is one of the main drawbacks or deciding factors into which one of these products you choose is to whether you're working in the shade versus the direct sun on hot paint. Every one of these products, and let me go down the list here because they have endless products. And here's the chemical I was talking about, and this happens to be put out by CarPro. It's Iron X. It chemically will react to the ferrous pollutants that are stuck to your car's paint. Whether you're a brand new car or a used car, it will happen because pollution is ever invasive. It's everywhere. And just like my go-to product for wheel cleaners, which is Meguiar's Wheel Brightener, which is an acid-based wheel cleaner, the reason I use that is because of chemistry. It chemically reacts to the brake dust. It makes it easier to clean your wheels. Just like this chemically reacts to the ferrous particles on your paint. It chemically reacts. These surface prep bars are what would be called more mechanical, as in physically removing them by abrading them away, shearing them off. That debate is an endless debate, and it really is a non-issue because you could debate it all day long. You will get a different answer every time you ask someone. I merely speak from experience. My experience is not your experience. I just know what has worked for me in my world. So let me go down the list here. We've got a surface pad. Now what they have come up with is what feels like a rubberized material that they have attached to a microfiber pad. You get this wet. Every one of these products indicates and suggests that you use it on cool shaded paint. Once again, as a mobile detailer, I personally do not use a canopy. Everything has its trade-offs. For me, the winning combination of not having to use a canopy is acceptable so long as I know how to work around the limitations of these certain tools. So this is a surface prep cloth. You use all of them the same way, which means that you wash the car first, you get the chunks off, then you have clean paint. Then you take a lubricant, some type of lubricant. It will either be a dedicated lubricant, clay bar lubricant, or it may be a quick detailer, a final detailer, final inspection, whatever. You need some kind of lubricant. Most of these manufacturers will tell you that water will not be sufficient as a lubricant. I disagree. I just need something that will act as a lubricant. Water can do that if, once again, you know how to do it. So you have many choices. They all work. They all have limitations. They all have benefits. This is a handheld. It's very pliable. Obviously, it can be worked into any groove you want it to. So that's a cool thing. Do I use it very much? Nope. In fact, I don't even carry it with me. Recently, and that's what the additional part of this video will be about, is me demonstrating these two nanoskin pads, which are very handy. They're palm size. One comes in a fine grade, which typically is blue. The other is a medium grade, which typically is red. Same with my clay bars here. This, when it first started out, was very red. It is a medium grade for more heavy or excessive levels of fallout. This is the blue. This is after years of use, by the way, and I can still use it. These three clay bars I carry with me in this little plastic container, and I carry two with me in case I have a helper bee with me, and we're both claying the paint. And then the red one. All three of these are Clay Magic. Here's two other examples. This is a Clear Coat Solutions clay bar. This, I think, is Mother's, and you can buy them in a clay bar kit. And if you look in the Show More box below this video, I will have links. So based on whether you're a driveway detailer and you have just one or two personal cars in which you're going to do, then you might want to opt for a clay bar kit because it comes with a typically either one or two of these smaller clay bars, which is more than enough, and it comes with a lubricant. Often it might come with a cleaner wax like the Meguiar's kit or the Mother's kit, So this is kind of the all-in-one ideal for what I call the retail consumer, retail car owner. Not really intended for the professional use that's going to be doing car after car after car. So let me answer this question for you, Brandon, specifically, and many of you have asked this. Will these abrade? Absolutely. If you have charted the industry, when they first came out with the clay bars, they kind of did a workaround. They didn't come right out and say that yes, it will abrade, but they did suggest that you would likely need to polish afterward. Now I notice that they say that they will not abrade the paint or they will not scratch the paint. Okay, that's just kind of semantics, which means, what do you really mean by scratching the paint? Will it put deep scratches in your paint? No, it will not. Will it abrade the paint and put what I call micro abrasions? Yes, it absolutely will. Now the kicker is that the more you use this, the more pressure, the more times you rub it back and forth, the more it will abrade the paint. The darker the paint color is, the more those abrasions will show up. But they're the type of abrasions that in most of the real world, and what I mean by that is by the general consumer. The general car owner is rather ignorant and does not know what true perfected paint looks like. All they recognize is essentially clean and shiny paint. That's it. They don't know what paint texture is. They rarely know what orange peel is. They don't understand all the variables or the nuances of paint. So it really becomes a non-issue, because by the time you're using one of these pads by hand, even though it has abraded the paint, by the time you're done waxing it, never mind polishing it, if you're going to polish it, those abrasions will either be diminished so much that you will not be able to see them, or they will be completely removed. So I mentioned in the first video that this will abrade your paint significantly, but what I did not add is that I was using it with a DA buffer. A DA buffer that was probably set at a level 5, which means it's oscillating and rotating, 1,000 times more than my hand will. So it did abrade it very extensively. I did have to polish the paint when I was done. I needed to do it anyway, so it was a non-issue. But just know that this can be done by hand. So, question, Darren, if you had to pick, which of these would you pick? Because I can tell you what I carry with me is both these, this, and these 3 clay bars. This is all I carry with me professionally, and it will accomplish any situation under any setting that I want. So my rule is this, is that if I'm working in shaded on a cool surface paint, I will pick one of these. I will use this by hand. If it's heavily excessive with fallout, I will use it by machine, knowing that I will likely have to polish that car afterwards, especially if it's a medium to dark colored car where it will really show the abrasions. If it's light and I can do it by hand and I don't have to whip out my polisher, I'm going to grab one of these and I'm going to use it by hand, but that's if I'm working under a canopy on cool shaded paint. If I'm working in the direct sun, I'm going to go with one of these clay bars. And if you watch my first video, this happens to be a synthetic chamois. It's put out by Water Sprite. It's very rigid right now because it's not wet. So what I do as a shortcut is I get this wet, I place the clay bar underneath it, and as I'm rubbing with it, because the clay bar is limited to a small area, as I'm wiping it, the area gets wet as I'm wiping it before the clay bar actually touches that area. So essentially it self-lubricates as I'm working the area. That's what I do in the direct sun. Why do I choose that? Because these polymer rubberized surface prep bars tend to leave skid marks on the paint, on paint that is warm to hot, far more than this. This will still leave skid marks, just not as much as this. They all abrade. The level of abrasion will be determined based on how much rubbing and how hard you have to rub it, whether you're using it by machine or by hand. That will be the determinants as to how much abrasions you will create during the clay barring or surface preparation process. So let's get on to the Maserati, where I go into further detail about new cars and using these sponges very specifically. You'll also notice that yes, I had to wear glasses because I can't put my contact lenses in either. So once again, welcome to my nightmare. It's going to be 2 weeks of a solid cast. It's going to be 4 to 6 weeks of a movable cast that will slowly be configured so that I have more range of motion. So welcome to the precarious world of the three-dimensional world called life, and sucks to be me right now.